Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Dodaro, thank you for your participation, testimony, and information today. I know we have covered a lot of different topics, subject matter, so I will be focused on the census, the decennial census that we're still working to complete, and looking forward to the 2030 decennial census as well. In the interest of time, I'll spare us all the chronology of the number of challenges faced in trying to complete a fair and accurate national population count in 2020. We all, well, I don't know if we would all agree, but I certainly believe that there was a lot of political tax undermining the 2020 census, both the years of underfunding and understaffing as the Bureau was preparing for the 2020 census. We saw the back and forth on the prior administration's attempt to question the citizenship of every person in America. That was thankfully not successful. But add to all that the restrictions and limitations posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, requiring extensions and changing of deadlines. And so we find ourselves in a place with compressed timetables for the Bureau to complete its work and report out its data, not just to federal partners, but to states, so they can proceed with the work of the redistricting process, let alone the funding formulas for funds, state and federal funds that are dispersed on a per capita basis, et cetera. So my question is really in two parts. Number one, what lessons should we have learned from this 2020 census experience? The GAO report does call out the concerns about the compressed time frame. So what lessons learned do we draw from the 2020 decennial census experience as we will begin to prepare for the 2030 census soon enough? And then maybe even more short term, what can be done to try to ensure the maximum accuracy and quality of data for the 2020 census?
I'm going to, Senator, we're both in luck today. Our census expert, Chris Mim, has been involved in every census since the 1990 census, is with us today that can best respond to those questions. I'd also note that Chris will be retiring from GAO this year after 36 years of distinguished federal service, and he's, in addition to the census work, headed up all our high-risk program at GAO. So I'll turn it to him, and he can give you terrific answers here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Comptroller General, and thank you, Senator, for the question. You outlined perfectly, I think, all the challenges that the Bureau ran into, both in terms of the changes of the schedule at an executive branch level, as well as the forced changes as a result of COVID-19 going into the field and coming out and then going back in. I think there's a couple of big lessons that we can learn from that. Perhaps at the most macro level is that there's only so much time that you can squeeze out of the schedule. The Bureau had said, for example, it would take them in 2010, it took them 150 days to process the data after field data collection was done. They then this time were, at least initially, were saying that they were going to have to use 90 days, and then it went down to 70. It turned out that they said, we're going to find things that are in the data, what they call anomalies, that are going to need to be investigated. We can't get it down to that, and to the quality of historical standards of the census, and indeed they could not. But more on point to your question is that we believe that the Bureau ought to be doing two things. One is that they need to be making sure that they're evaluating the impact of the operational changes that they made to data collection and data processing. Some of those may be good ideas in order to carry forward, but some of them may have consequences for the quality of the data. And second, and perhaps more importantly, is that we believe that the Census Bureau, when they release apportionment data and when they release the redistricting data, needs to provide stakeholders, including the Congress and the public, high-level data that's indicative of the type of quality of the data, of the underlying data. For example, proxy data, that is the extent to which they used information not from the actual respondent, but from a neighbor or other trusted source, not just at the national level, but breaking that down to sub-demographics by racial categories, local jurisdictions, and all the rest. So they need to provide information to us in real time that shows us the quality of the data while they're doing their longer evaluations of the impact of the design changes.
I think the other lesson learned is that the internet response rate worked.
Yes, sir.
Internet option
Yes.
worked. And I think in future years, as our population becomes more computer connected, that offers some lessons learned, Senator, for the future as well.
Right. And, any final comments on salvaging to the best of our ability the quality and accuracy of the 2020 census data?
I think the best option at this point is to let Census do its normal thing that it's done before and look at the coverage evaluation and to take the time that they think they need to give us the best data they can within the timeframes that are available. And I do think that vetting it at the state and local level and allowing them to comment on it has always been a good quality check, and we don't want to shortchange that process either. Chris,
Okay.
anything else there?
No, other than, Gene, that they will be doing their big independent assessment of the quality of the census called the post-enumeration survey. That data won't come out until later this year or even the spring in 2022. We're going to continue to be evaluating and monitoring that on behalf of the Congress, and obviously we'll be reporting out anything we see on that.
Okay. Well, thank you both, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the balance of my time.